Welcome back to The Count. We're counting down the major stories of the week. I'm Lydia Serrani. Now to story number 2 on our countdown, the age of Trump. Sounds about right. Trump's big week, from the stock exchange to Time Magazine to the Army-Navy game today. Definitely having a great week. Here to talk about it, Tony Kinnett. He's an investigative journalist with the Daily Signal. Luke Ball. He's the CEO of Mason Barrow Strategies and a Republican strategist. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you
for having us, Lydia.
Tony, so let's start off with Trump at the Army-Navy game. What kind of message does that send to the American people? Also with fellow Marine veteran there, we also have J.D. Vance. He was there at Pete Hegseth. The fact that Pete Hegseth is there with President Trump, laughing it up with J.D. Vance. We also have another Marine veteran there as well, Daniel Penny. What kind of message does that, and Elon Musk is there too, Tulsi Gabbard. What kind of message does this send to the American people?
It sends the kind of message that we finally have a president who stands behind our military again, despite all of the weird claims during the campaign that Trump was saying this or that about fallen veterans at Normandy, a lie that was so pathetic no one even tried to believe it. Now we see the president at the Army-Navy game, and though it's not quite the outcome I was hoping for, seeing the president, the vice president there, as well as future Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and then recently acquitted Jordan Neely, sends a message. The president is back. The recruiting problems, I pray, are about over, and it's time to put America where it belongs. Peace through strength. That's what we're sending.
Absolutely. And Luke, the fact that you do have Daniel Penny there, I mean, it is a tragedy if you think about it. What did happen to Jordan Neely? 42 times, right? Authorities had opportunities because he had been arrested. At least 42 charges, 42 times that they could have done something. They could have put him forced him into some kind of rehabilitation program. They did nothing. He punched the woman so hard in the face just weeks prior to that subway chokehold incident that he fractured her orbital bone. And then you see the difference in how Daniel Penny's treated and how Luigi Mangione, the CEO, is being treated. And finally, you have this administration coming out, inviting him there to the Army-Navy game. That sends also a clear-cut message that we're not going to stand by and be victimized anymore.
It says that America is back. When DA Alvin Bragg went after Donald Trump, he was sending a message to the entire country that he was coming after Republicans and conservatives that refused to fall in line or be silent in the face of any sort of adversity. When he went after Daniel Penny, he was sending a message to everyday Americans: do not get out of the lane that we put you in. This was all about power and control, solidifying their Democrat power in New York and trying to expand it across the United States of America. But we came roaring back with defeating against Alvin Bragg for Donald Trump and Daniel Penny, and defeating the left-wing lawfare through the election with the popular vote and the Electoral College. Look, I think Donald Trump getting Time Man of the Year is great, but it's about 1/10 of the way there. Truly, he should be Man of the Decade, because they have been coming after him ever since he came down that escalator and announced his campaign in like 2015 and ran in 2016. An entire decade's worth of the left and Democrats and all of his enemies coming against him. And now the American people have stood up and said, we've had enough of it.
You know, Tony, there was a lot of criticism of President Trump's pick of J.D. Vance, and clearly he made the right decision there. He is the future of the Make America Great Again movement. I think in his previous administration, President Trump, with picking Pence, he was doing what he thought he needed to do, and that's why he ended up he did fire quite a few people and made a lot of changes. But it looks like this time around, when you're looking at President Trump's picks, he's picking people that are passionate, that care about this country, and they can be the future of the Republican Party.
So I'm not only going to say that J.D. Vance is an incredibly good-looking pick, certainly no personal bias there. But putting that aside, he is surrounding himself with a lot of mavericks who are doing their best to make sure that this particular administration moving forward is one that's going to reform a lot of institutions that Americans have lost trust with. And it's an ideologically diverse cabinet. That's something we haven't seen in at least 2 or 3 decades. So we're going to see some consistent arguments, some good points being made out of the cabinet. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the mandate of the American people level the deep state that has gone after them, as my counterpart here has said so eloquently, over the last decade.
Right. The mainstream media, we were talking about it before when Christopher Wray announced his resignation this week. They said there was crying among FBI staffers. They were saying it was such a horrible thing. And Kash Patel, he's going to reinvigorate the FBI. He's promising to drain the deep state, this stagnant swamp of bureaucracy. Luke Ball, can he do it? Do you think he gets confirmed? Your thoughts?
You know, I think there was probably weeping and gnashing of teeth at the FBI because they're no longer going to be able to leak to their media sources. And I'm sure the media was quite upset as well. Remember how they compiled the Steele dossier. Remember how Andrew McCabe was caught leaking. Remember how all of these people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were texting back and forth with one another saying, don't worry, we're going to stop him, meaning we're going to stop Donald Trump. So unfortunately, in the United States, we've got like three main political parties, the RNC, the DNC, and the FBI. We need to get the FBI out of politics. We need to get it back to its crime-fighting mission. We need to actually make sure that our tax dollars are not going to leverage against political enemies, but rather against enemies of the United States, rapists and murderers and people who are pouring across our southern border who are here to commit violent crimes, things of that nature. I think that when we actually get the FBI and the Department of Justice back on track, the entire United States is going to be put back on track, and Democrats, Republicans, independents, everybody is going to largely benefit from that, maybe not so much the media.
Yeah, and then they can restore the trust of the American people because you have the FBI and DHS coming out and saying, don't worry about the drones, and nobody believes them anymore. That's the sad part about it. Nobody trusts these letter agencies anymore. We have to leave it right there. Tony Kinnett, Luke Ball, thank you both.